Are we actually working now? That is the real question of the day. Are we actually working? Is this thing on? Is the thing on? Doesn't look like it. Oh, wait. No, I think it is. Okay. Thank the fucking Lord. Holy shit. We figured it out, or at least I think I figured it out. Oh, God. What a monstrosity to start this live stream off with. Very annoying. All right. Live stream finally good. Just posting in the Discord right now. Again, apologies for the early stream mishaps there. Apparently, you can't double stream to both Twitter and YouTube today. Just doesn't like that. Just doesn't like that for whatever reason. Some days it works, some days it doesn't. But today, I guess it's just not one of those days. Zoom in a little bit here. Wait, how do I use this? How do I use this damn thing? Hold on, let me adjust. Hold on. There we go. I think that's a little bit better. A little bit better. Okay, thank the fucking Lord, man. Got the shit finally working. Wow, that was extremely annoying. Extremely annoying. And yes, I appreciate all of the comments letting me know that the stream is not working, especially my father. I already know. Believe me, I already know. It's very annoying. But yeah, I do appreciate the heads up on that. But yeah, I think things are good to go now. I'm not getting any dropped frames. I'm not getting any dropped bullshit over here. So that is really, really nice. And of course, yes, I just got a notification. Don't mute your microphone. Yes, good idea as well. Great idea. Anyways, god damn, man. Bitcoin finally, well, somewhat moving, I guess. I mean, at the end of the day, we are getting some pretty nasty signals here, but I do suspect that this next, I'm starting to look at this next couple of weeks as starting to be, very boring again, with probably another move to the downside of the range. It's not a break at the downside of the range. But my God, man, my God, this market is certainly tasting everyone's patience as of right now. Not that I recognize it, didn't even look at this earlier, but on the bi-weekly time frame, there is this sort of rising channel that Bitcoin's been in for about a year now. And that actually did break on the November dump-ola. So, I mean, technically there is a measure move from that. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit later on this video. But before that, I do want to get my pop-out chart over here, or my pop-out chat over here, just because that makes it super easy to actually see what the hell people are saying. Let's get it on over here. Okay, boom and boom. Okay, we're starting to look better. Again, apologies for completely whiffing on the beginning of the stream. It is what it is, though, man. You don't come here for a well-polished, highly sophisticated stream. You come here for a silly goose time in which I'm going to fuck up many times, many times, as I check to see if my video is actually working properly, which it seems to be. It seems to be right now, which is good. Anyways, make a video with Fiboswani. I can't force him to make videos, man. He comes on when he's ready to come on, and I don't force him either which way. I'm glad that you're very excited for him, but at the end of the day, it's his decision, my man. It's his decision. Let's do some gay shit. Yes, let's all do some gay shit. Everyone get naked. Take each other's bungholes in your hand holes and just whip them up, link them up, and do the elephant walk. Yes, that's how we do it. The silly goose. Yes, the silliest of gooses. That's right, man. Uranium stock being requested from Warcraft 0071. Indeed. We could, I don't know, maybe we go over that a little bit later. I think actually right now, gold's very interesting. As we identified on yesterday's video, gold does not want to pull back. Gold wants to go back to the prior highs, in which it already has at 43.52 or so. Now I'm pulling it back a little bit from that, but this thing does look like it's more or less ready to break out. I mean, Jesus Christ, man, what a powerful chart. Doesn't want to give anyone an entry at this point. I'm actually looking for a long-term entry on gold. I think I'm just going to have to kind of capitulate on my own investment for gold for a while until we get a real bear market going again. But yeah, in the future, I actually would be interested in that, but not right now, not at these prices. Although I do think it is going to go higher. Just I personally don't like to invest at these prices. And again, when I'm looking at gold on the monthly here, we do start to see double extremes on the monthly BBWP. So you just don't see this that often. So whatever move that it is experiencing right now, I think that it has more to go. I just don't think that it's going to last that much longer. So maybe, another 3 to 4 months maximum. And I'd probably not be super surprised if it does find a high before then. But shit, I mean, this is probably the best portion of this rally. I mean, if you do just want to catch a trade, I guess, this is the time where things can go pretty fucking crazy. So, I mean, are we going to see a five handle on gold, in the next, 3 to 6 months? I think it might be likely, to be honest with you. Kind of crazy there, man. But I'm looking to buy and accumulate once the major swing high is in and we start to get an actual monthly downswing. We just haven't seen one of those since 2023 or 2024. So ultimately, I'm going to play the waiting game because I missed it. And I don't like chasing. I don't do the old chasing stuff. Mark is doing enough gay shit shit already, says Terry Tees. It is doing a little bit of gay shit, but we're all gay for TA, and we're all a little bit gay anyways. So we might as well just accept it and put finger in bunghole and raise your hand and say the pledge of bullishness and bearishness Angus's. That's how we do it here. We do a lot of gay shit. Gay shit is good because it is 2025. Gay shit is now very much in. It's very much in vogue. That's just how it goes. I don't make the rules, so don't be getting mad at me. I'm just playing the trends as they come, and the trend is your friend, and the trend is gay as it gets, baby. Gay as it fucking gets. In fact, even this guy's wondering, why the fuck is this even in that way? But it just is, man. It just is. So we shall move on from there. We should go check out some traditional markets as I continue to waffle on and check out some NASDAQ futures here, which we're ending the week on a bit of a pullback. You know, I still look at last week's low as very much relevant, but in this case, we're going to see last week's low taken out here. So are we going to see a greater pullback based off of this over the next couple of weeks? Probably yes. Same thing on SPY futures, or sorry, I correct myself. Not the same thing on SPY futures, which is very much important right now. This one is on about a 10-minute delay because I don't pay for the updated data feed on these futures. But as of right now, I'm going to mark off last week's low, which is about 6,800 even. I do want to be aware if that does get taken out intraday here, because if it does, then I'm going to be betting on a general market pullback probably over the next week or two, something like this. But NASDAQ's already done that. You know, if NASDAQ does it and SPY futures don't, then I would still default to SPY futures. That one is, you know, more important overall, to be fair. But of course, NASDAQ futures, you know, a little bit more relevant to Bitcoin, of course, and Bitcoin is pulling back here too. So that does, you know, that does make sense more or less. Anyways, go check out what IBIT's doing before we get into the actual Bitcoin's analysis. I'm curious to see what this guy's doing as of right now. And as always, I'm on the wrong chart. I see my GM is going up. Fuck yeah, man. There we go. And always invest in what you buy. No, that's actually not necessarily true. But if it's a good company, then hell yeah, go for it. Anyways, IBIT, do we have anything of interest right here that is not being shown on spot price action? Not so much. Although we do see Bitcoin below, or IBIT below all major moving averages, which is not a great sign. But I think Bitcoin spot's kind of doing its own, a good enough job of its own to kind of make me very concerned in the short term. I mean, short term does want to pull back more. But still, I have a very difficult time looking at Bitcoin going lower than the November lows without having somewhat of a bounce tapped, you know, above whatever highs we've seen in December thus far. Anyways, I am looking at getting solar installed in my house. I want you to tell me why that's a terrible, terrible idea. This is how I make all my decisions. I go on YouTube and I ask the community their opinion, because actually the community here has such great opinions on such thing on many different things, because there's so many people from so many different walks of life. I mean, shit, when we started to talk about guns last week, I got like some of the best information I could have possibly gotten just from a couple of conversations. It was super, super useful. Anyways, I see Phil Boswani here. What's up, man? He says, I chart Bitcoin, and yes, my lines are straighter than the market. No way. You can't be doing none of that, man. We got rainbow color lines over here. We're going off the rainbow chart as well. And I think Bitcoin's actually in the red right now. Let's see. I haven't looked at this in a long time. This would obviously correlate with the 4-year timing cycles. So this is probably going to say that the cycle is over, but let's see, what did I name that chart? I think it was a fundamental chart. Oh God, I completely forget. Maybe it was a long-term chart. One of these, man, these have been pretty fun to look at over the years. Yeah, I think it was this one right here. And I think people are going to capitulate on this chart, or sorry. Okay. Yeah. The green is typically the end of a cycle, I suppose. In which case, you know, that would suggest that the October high was the high of the cycle. I mean, we kind of already knew that though, because timing is going to be rather consistent from cycle to cycle. So again, I mean, if you are a believer in the 4-year cycle, then I think it's a very relevant thought to think that this cycle is over. I am not so much just yet, but to be fair, you know, it hasn't been negated yet. I mean, for all we know, there is no reason not to believe that the 4-year cycle is not off, because, well, we haven't seen new highs after the October high, which you would have expected if, you know, the 4-year cycle is still, you know, is no longer legitimate. So I suppose time shall tell, but you know, for right now, if you are looking at the 4-year cycle as legitimate, everything's going to plan. Even though I don't want to believe that it is legitimate still, but, you know, have to acknowledge that as a literal fact. I mean, it is quite literally a fact. As Bitcoin does get into the cyan or aqua zone here, I don't know what the fuck you actually call that color. I'm going to call it cyan, but I think a lot of people call that one aqua as well. Anyway, or Aruba. I've seen it called Aruba too. interesting one. Been buying a lot of furniture recently, so I'm very hip to the color names. But yeah, you know, that's typically where things do start to come down. And of course, I'm getting a call right now. Let's see who this is. Hello? Hello? Yes, what's up? Yes, is this... sorry, I'm very busy right now, so unless if this is a life or death thing, I need to hang up. She hung up. Great. Great way to end a conversation. That worked. She didn't even say anything after that. That was great, man. That's always how I handle these. I always handle these in that way. I'm like, look, if this is not life or death, don't fucking call because it's not that important, man. Holy shit. Yeah, what a boomerang tone. I know, man. I always go with the default because I just can't be fucked, or I can't be asked. What do the English people say? They go, I can't be asked. I can't be asked to do that, mate. I can't be asked to change the ringtone. That takes too much time, mate. And as always, I ask the question, if you believe Asian voice is racist, why was that English accent not racist? Or Australian accent? We don't really know which one it is, to be honest, because, I mean, they sound the same to me, more or less. But yes, I understand there are differences. That just is what it is. Anyways, I don't answer my phone anymore, says Great White Hype. I know, man, I know. It's one of those things. I don't like to answer my phone, but I just have a nasty habit of doing it because apparently there actually have been a lot of important calls recently. Oh, I've been getting all kinds of calls recently from even the city, the city government recently. Having all sorts of issues, man. Home ownership, I'll tell you this, home ownership can be very, very lovely, but it is a constant, everlasting, biblical battle with fucking water. Always fucking water. Leak here, leak there. Oh, we have leaks everywhere. What do? I don't know. Find someone who knows what the fuck to do. Problem is, most people don't know what the fuck to do, even if they're accredited or anything like that, man. You've learned very, very quickly, a plumber is not the same as a plumber. There are good plumbers and bad plumbers. You can't just hire anyone. Holy shit, man. I've learned many a lessons, man. Many a lessons. Yeah, we used to pay for ringtones. It's true. Now, if a shit makes a noise, I want it dead. I kind of feel the same way. I mean, it's just generally annoying. Anyways, okay, cool. I don't know why my picture or why my video is like so dark on video here. Because it's so dark in here, says Elsa. Fair enough. It's so dark in here. I've owned my house for 10 years, never a break from problems. Yeah, I mean, that just is what it is. But that's I guess that's the price you pay. That's the price you pay. Then again, would I rather rent? No, I don't think so. Although I do think that renting can make some sense for some people, but it just depends. It depends on the situation, of course. Yeah, can't be arsed, bruv. I can't be arsed, bruv. Yeah. Oh God, man. The English chavs, I think that's the name. The chavs. This is the chav speak that I've heard of before. I despise it. I absolutely despise it. Holy shit, man. Most English people like Bare Nutrition, because I actually know Bare Nutrition in real life. They have this accent that makes you think immediately, oh shit, this is like some sort of aristocracy. Like these people must be extremely smart and some sort of royalty. Then there's other English people who sound like fucking talking, whispering rats, and it's awful. It's fucking awful, honestly, man. It's like nails on a chalkboard. Same thing with Australian men from certain areas. From Brisbane, you know, Jason Pizzino, he's fine. Him and his brother, they're fine. But the other places, they're very bad. It's very fucking bad, and it needs to be stopped immediately. Absolutely immediately. Anyways, as we go through the problems of the world, we should also go through the problems of Bitcoins here. The old Bitcoins. Yes, we have many problems on Bitcoins, and one of them is that our sale is no longer active, so get the fuck out of that. No, it cannot happen any longer. Never again. But we did indeed see the 21 versus 55 EMA cross happen on the 5-day time frame as of last night. That is in reference to the title of this video. The signal is lit. The signal has happened. And now we have a pretty nasty long-term signal here. Now, when I say long-term signal, that does not mean Bitcoin is going literally to fucking zero from here right now. That is very unlikely to happen, in fact. But it does set in the bias for a much more long-term move. And as of right now, we will see this cross as inevitable as long as Bitcoin is below the crossing level is $104,600. So that number has actually gone up significantly from yesterday's video. If you recall, yesterday's video is around $95,000. So going up almost $10,000 in one closure is not the best sign. But you know, there is always potential, always probability that, you know, trends can reverse. But in this case, basically, I would go as far to say, as long as you're below, especially $100,000, or if you want to go super exact, 105 or 104.5, I should say, it's my personal view is that any bounce that we get is likely to be that, just a bounce before some sort of a move lower. Am I calling a bear market here? Am I calling down only? Not necessarily, but just taking the market cycle one leg at a time. It is looking very, very likely that we will see lower prices at some point, probably in 2026, below the November lows. Does Bitcoin get a greater bounce before that? I still think that that's actually rather likely here, but still. The more important thing is this cross going on right here. Anytime that we've seen this cross in the past, it is followed with significant downside, I would say, over the next, half year to a year in many cases. The only case where this was not true was in the pandemic in 2020. We did see the initial signal actually come down, yes, and did play out that move. But there was one more signal after that, which I would say was, definitely a failure here. But again, this was a black swan, so a little bit of different price action and interpretation. But that one actually literally would have shorted on the exact low and would have gotten liquidated, many moons later. But other than that, many of them played very, 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 very uniformly over the past full history of Bitcoin. The most recent signal that we saw was back here in February of 2022. You can see that from the signal to the actual resolution, there was a lot of price action in between. And in fact, there was a rally above the green 55 by a pretty decent margin at some point. If we were to measure from the actual time that trade would have been taken to the high, that would have been a more than 20% move to the upside over 40 days. So that's more than a month. Again, from the initial signal of that, from the initial validation of that signal, which we just got the first tick of it literally today. So, if we fast forward out almost 1.5 months to January, like end of January, it's kind of where we'd kind of be expecting that move. If Bitcoin is going to have a bounce, and in the interim, can we see something like this where Bitcoin returns to those lows? Yeah, I actually do think we're probably going to get something like this. I don't think it's going to make a new low, but returns somewhere, moderately close to those lows. Of course, we can go over another example back from the pandemic in 2019 December. Bitcoin rallied up big here, over 46% over the course of 45 days. Again, 45 days to the next high, and this one was significantly higher than the past one, which was 20%. This one being 46% or more than 46%. And yeah, it did play out that downside move, but it did indeed happen. Most importantly, of course, we got this one over here from 2018, fires off the signal and to the next major high. That was 30 days, so pretty much a month on the dot. This one up big as well, 36.80%, pretty damn big. But again, that was inevitably a lower high, which followed through with significantly lower prices over time. I mean, this one finding its lowest price, about half a year, about a little bit more than half a year after the signal did fire off. So, these things can take a long time to play out. Of course, the one before that was from 2014. Again, this one did have, over the next 50 days, a higher price by about 17.5% from the initial entry. So that is, that is significant. To put that in perspective, Bitcoin would have nearly a 20% move from where it's at right now. That would put it at above $100,000. That's for sure. Just doing some bad mental math, but somewhere above $100,000. I think below 110, but above 100, somewhere in that pocket there. Anyways, this one, of course, did come down further after that as well. So I do want to say that this next portion of the cycle is going to be rather nuanced, because there is a good possibility in the next month that Bitcoin does have a rally to the upside. Even if it plays out on the lower end of that, let's just say 15%, which all of the other ones were bigger than 15% from that initial entry or from that initial signal, that would put Bitcoin at about 105, 106. So very possible, but ultimately it would set into motion at least the bias for myself, and maybe you as well if if you're following what I'm saying. But at the end of the day, you are free to make your own decisions, of course, and you should be making your own decisions. But I will look at that as more than likely to be a lower high, which will produce further downside price action over some period of time. All of those signals in the past have reached for at least 35% to the downside, in many cases a lot more at a minimum from the initial entry. But again, that happened much further down the road. When I say much further down the road, I'm talking like 100 days to 200 days, somewhere in that range there. That's a long fucking time, man. That's a super, super long time. Gay Plum, wait, what? Sequoia says, I don't know about them Pazina boys. Don't trust them. Honestly, I think they're probably some of the, I think they're among the best on the, on the internet. They're, if I had to choose people that I'd actually trust in some way, they would be among them for sure. I actually know both of them in person as well. They're a lot more focused on more long-term macro price action. But in my opinion, they're actually quite good with that, and probably some of the best on YouTube, on the internet. But they don't really talk too much about shorter term price action. I think Michael somewhat does, but for the most part, they're focused on the long term macro, which is a different game. And I personally, I think that they're quite good. I'd be hard pressed to name a better guy in the macro than them, who's not just like a complete shiller or some shit like that. Anyways, yeah. So this signal is in over there. So again, this is a long-term thing, and it stacks up with the other signals that we do have. And I just want to bring the whole picture in view here, because again, we do have monthly stochastic momentum coming down pretty harshly here, coming down well below the bullish control zone. Now it's going to lose it at the end of December. It continues with downside price action as long as Bitcoin's below 121,250. That's, well above current price. Again, not impossible, but I'm not going to be betting against that right now. The quarterly time frame is going to have its first cross the downside in this cycle, by the way, at the end of December, if Bitcoin is still below 106. Also not necessarily great. And of course, the bi-monthly time frame, we've already seen this one cross the downside, I believe, or at least hint at it. Yeah, it already has initiated the first pass. The second pass will bring it back down below the critical zone. That one shows downside pressure as long as Bitcoin's below 104,350. On top of this, when we go over here, we can see that the monthly time frame still has, or is still playing out, I should say, 1, 2, 3 drives of bearish divergence. And of course, the quarterly time frame has 1, 2, 3 drives of bearish divergence here as well. So, these are signals that I personally don't want to ignore, alongside the MACD signal on the monthly as well, which I'll just show really, really quickly here. So ultimately, while I do think Bitcoin can still have a bigger bounce than what we've seen above about $94,500 at some point in this next month, personally, I do look at that as likely to fail just based off of this. And I'm just explaining why I believe what I believe based off of the past history. Again, you don't need to adopt these same opinions. You can disagree. That's all good. I'm just relaying what I'm looking at and why I think what I think. You can choose to, think that that's valid or not, and that's completely fine. But at the end of the day, I use history as my guide. I use statistics as my governor. And in this case, the monthly MACD did get its first cross the downside in December and is now following through. And again, that will continue with downside pressure for the first time in this whole cycle, by the way, as long as Bitcoin's below $118,000 almost. So all of these pivots for the higher term temperatures are significantly above. So that does tell me that the long-term bias, is probably that whatever high we saw in October is going to be a high for a long time. I think the real question is, or kind of where I'd probably deviate from a lot of the major bears right now, is that I don't think Bitcoin is going to have a super nasty downside cycle from here. I think it's going to be a swing high into a swing low, into a swing higher low, I should say as well. I don't think it's going to take as long as prior cycles. I don't think it's going to be as nasty as prior cycles by a good margin. In fact, I think, in general, at some point, we'll see Bitcoin maybe down around 70, and perhaps if it goes lower, then maybe like mid 50, something like this. But those are areas that I'm looking for very long-term investments. Until then, though, I'm just playing options right now. I'll continue to show you my options positions right here. I do need to make a decision likely soon if I want to get rid of this dead premium, because I did short the 80-70 put spread here, and I am in maximum profit, again, as long as Bitcoin's above $80,000. But I am a little bit concerned that we will see a downside move now in the next, week or two, maybe towards a portion or the later portion of December. So that might eat into some of these premiums over here. So I don't necessarily want to give that up as of right now. But right now, this one's still in major profit, which I'm very, very happy with, obviously. I think if we do start to see a real breakdown occurring over the weekend, what I will do is I will close this position, take the profit, and then reposition on whatever bounce that we may see following from that, which may take a while. But I'm not looking to just jump right straight into another position right after this. I don't look at that as a smart idea. I don't look at that as as wise at all. When I'm playing options, you want to be very, or at least I want to be super, super strategic and very patient with these sort of things, because you can get great positions that, in my opinion, are a lot easier to manage versus a futures contract or versus, spot for that matter. But it does require patience to kind of wait for those major peripheries to be tested. And then, if you want to sell some out of the money premium and pull in a spread on the other side so that you kind of, protect yourself a little bit, then I think that those can be really, 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 really lucrative positions if you do want to trade. But personally, and I saw a question earlier, someone was like, if I think something's going down to zero, should I just short it right now? It's like, not necessarily, because the path to zero can come with many twists and turns. First off, almost nothing ever really goes to zero, but I get what the person is saying. But even, on a general downtrend, every once in a while you have these, amazingly massive spikes to the upside. And that's usually what people kind of get obsessed with, not realizing that the easy trend is to the downside. But, even with that, you might be right on the long-term direction. I want to find an example here. Maybe AVAX is a good example. It's like if you short AVAX right here in July of 2022 at, $25, you are right. It is going down further over time, but you have to live through some of these spikes, in the interim. And that is just a really, 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 really difficult game to play. And unless if you strategically target one of these spikes to get short on, you're gonna be testing your position many times over history, even though ultimately you are gonna be right, which is just something to keep in the back of your minds. Like you can be right on direction, but your trade can go terribly wrong if you don't do it properly. That is why I really, 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 really in this portion of the market cycle would suggest to have extreme patience for picking positions. When it's a general bull market, I think it's a little bit easier because, the bull just kind of bails you out and you can play that on spot. But when you do want to get short, you have to use futures contracts or you have to use some sort of leverage. You can't just, short spot. That's not a thing. So at some point you have to use leverage. At that point, whenever you use leverage, that does introduce, potential vulnerabilities to your position. So it must be much, 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 much more strategic. You cannot get away with as much as you can in a general bull market. So fair enough. Anyways, Cavman says we do a lot of gay shit. I know we do a lot of gay shit. I've even got a sign over there. It says, let's do some gay shit together. And I don't know what that's all about. It was in the house before I bought it, but that's why I bought it, because I saw that and I knew that it was for me. Anyways, I shall drink a little bit more of this caffeine. What's up, Mr. Lev Ashen? I see you over there. I see the real PG. You can short 1X. You can short 1X. True. Yes. At the end of the day, that's just simulating a cash position though, isn't it? So it's like, why wouldn't you just sell straight up? It doesn't make sense in my opinion. It's like, you literally just have a cash position now. To me, it doesn't make sense. What's up, Bondo Podcho? I see you over there. Okay, cool. So let's go through some Bitcoin's price action analysis, and we'll go into the super chats, look at some of these shit coins as well, of which I got a big one right in front of my face. Absolutely beautiful, absolutely amazing. What about Sui? What about Sui shitcoin? Yeah, again, another one here. It's like, these things are hard to short. I'd rather short it at like $2.50 to $3 rather than at $1.50. Just at some point, these things do have their like mega fucking moves. That's what makes it very, very difficult. Anyways, okay, I'm just rambling right now. I do apologize about that. Let me get my notes out and flying around over here. We already spoke about the 5-day setup, so I won't go over that yet again. But I do want to go over the lower term time frame setups here because. Let's go over the daily time frame. We did identify that there is potential for hidden bearish divergence on yesterday's video. That potential is now going to very likely be realized today if Bitcoin closes anywhere below 91,200. I also want to acknowledge that the moving average cross that we were looking at yesterday got extremely close. Just over $10 of price differential there. It got extremely close, but it did not happen. So if it did not happen, then there's no actionable trade to the upside, unfortunately, because that could have made things a lot easier. But in this case, no, it did miss it by $10, $10 fucking dollars. And then to come back down today, back down below that pivot, does tell me that this signal over here is significantly more likely to fire off, and that will be the short-term direction. So I do think Bitcoin's going to come down at least to like 87.5 and retest last week's low or last Saturday or Sunday's low. And then personally, if it does close below that low, I will be looking for Bitcoin to come back down somewhere around 83 to 84,000 bucks. Again, these are generally tight moves for a smaller and smaller range, but because Bitcoin's at such a big price action number, they are big numbers, overall. But generally, these ranges are getting tighter and tighter. So while I do think we got a range move to the bottom side of the range after 1, 2, 3 rejections from the top side of the range, I still don't think you're going to break the bottom side of the range. To be honest, I really don't. I think that there is going to be a bounce before that. But of course, also on the side of, hey, short-term correction first is daily stochastic momentum. We're going to see this one turn to the downside very likely if Bitcoin does close today below 90,300. Bitcoin could easily rally back up above that number by end of day. But if it doesn't, then that does compound that hidden bearish divergence signal saying, hey, this thing's very likely to break down a little bit here, come back down to the bottom side of the range. And you know, I mean, what, that's like another $5,000 to $6,000 move, or sorry, $6,000 to $7,000 move. You know, that is risk. That is real. And on top of that, we don't really need this chart. It's not really relevant for right now. But on top of that, again, I just don't think we're going to get a new low on this move below the November lows, at least on a closing basis, before bouncing further, because we still have not seen the mean reversion play on the 5-day HPDR play out. And what's also of great interest here, you know, if you do want a little bit of optimism, is that the HPDR median did not come down with this new open. It actually went up a little bit. It went from about 106,200 to almost 108,000 US dollars. Now, do I think that Bitcoin's going to test that median in this next 5-day period? Very unlikely. I think this next 5-day period is going to be another downside move to the bottom side of the range. But after that, this one should come down again. And at that point, it's going to be in like the mid to upper 90s. And I think that will be the high of whatever bounce that we're going to be getting, you know, between now and let's say middle of January, something like this. And then after that bounce, you know, if we see a rejection anywhere below, especially 105, 106, I'm personally going to be viewing that as a bull trap, at least on the first pass. So that's kind of the way that I'm looking at this market right now. Of course, we got the weekly closure for CME coming up later today. Let's actually go to the CME chart right here. Not really getting anything super unique for the HPDR on this particular closure. Let's see what we got over here for the weekly on an RSI look for CME. Again, I mean, this is certainly not strong price action or anything like that. I just don't think it's ready to break down. You know, if it's even if it does break down later on, just don't think it's ready right now. What about stochastic momentum over here weekly for CME? This one's going to continue with downside pressure as long as Bitcoin's closing below 90,400 almost. Again, very, very close to that pivot as of right now. You know, this also tells me, the weekly time frame also tells me, hey, don't get too bearish right now. Like, it's very, very unlikely we're going to see new lows below the November lows in the short term with these sort of reads already way down here. It's just, it doesn't have the momentum to keep it up to really force a major breakdown, at least in my opinion. The bi-weekly time frame, yeah, this one's still problematic long term. We already went over the monthly, the bi-monthly, the quarterly, and probably even the 4-month is going to have some issues here too. Well, not really much of a chart to be fair, but yeah, it will turn down very likely. So, you know, as we come into the end of this year, I do want to take a quick look at what the yearly looks like. And, you know, the yearly is very interesting to me right here. Pretty much, I would imagine any price action trader is going to look at this and say, hey, that's a swing high. And, you know, kind of have at least one bar of down, you know, with continuation. Yeah, I mean, at some point, you know, in 2026, we should see at least a you know, a retry at this year's open. But this year's open is only $93,500. So, you know, maybe there, maybe a little bit higher. Maybe that's going to be the early January bounce. But yeah, at some point in 2026, I'd imagine very early, yeah, we will see that move. So fair enough. I suppose time shall tell, and we shall be, or at least I shall be patient. Again, you can do whatever the fuck you would like to do. But I will go back here and I will check out some of our beautiful comments that Elsa has accumulated in the background. I see Biff the Bull is first. He's looking at Rose. They've updated the website. That's amazing, man. A new website is the exact thing that they needed. They don't need to mess around with the code or, you know, try to actually make their product any better. No. That's just old school type of thinking, right? This is Rose. What we need is a new website. That's how people get interested in this. That's how we actually prove that this is a very legitimate asset. And unfortunately, it looks like this thing is actually getting flushed over because this thing is actually literally at all-time lows as of this moment. I do believe indeed it is. And it would appear that the trend is indeed your friend. The trend is your friend. The trend is your friend. Whenever I see these shit coins and I know that Biff is highly likely. There's a high probability of Biff trolling, but there are some people who like really do believe in this shit. And anytime like I come across these people, I just like, this is the exact sales copy or marketing that I believe they're getting sucked into. It's something like this.
Do you have money?
You have money?
You want even more money?
Buy my shitcoin. Why? I don't know. It's going to make you rich. That's the user. That's a user value proposition. Anyways, Ray now 97 says, does the 6-month or yearly chart make sense in crypto? If you're on Bitcoin, the 6-month chart kind of makes sense. The yearly chart, I think, is still a little bit too early. But you know, the 6-month chart, you don't even have one tick of the 55 EMA. But you can definitely see a trend here. You can definitely see that it does play somewhat technically, at least as far as trend goes. And it does seem to love that red 5 EMA here as well. The yearly, I think a lot less so for Bitcoin. And of course, if you're not Bitcoin, then you basically have significantly less history than Bitcoin. Thus, it's going to be less and less and less and less viable. Anyways, you're looking at XMR on those timeframes. Oh, I don't think XMR is going to make sense on these timeframes. XMR, Monero has been around for less than Bitcoin, of course, about 5 years less than Bitcoin. But hey, if I am looking at the 6-month timeframe, it tells us what we already know. I guess it's a little bit more of an obvious look here, but yeah, this is an uptrend. We got a new higher low in January of last year. And while it might not necessarily be ready to break out to the upside, this year, I do think that there is another try to the upside overall, just to play out that general trend. I mean, this is objectively a good chart, for further continuation to the upside over some period of time. But because it's a 6-month chart, I mean, that could be, 2 years. That could take 2 years from now, for example. I'm not saying it's going to take 2 years, but, just wouldn't be that crazy based off of that. And of course, the yearly chart right here, again, very, very good. Like, this is a very good chart. This will extremely likely lead towards continuation to new highs. It's just over what time frame. I mean, when you're looking at a yearly chart, I mean, shit, that might be the next year or two. It might, it's not that crazy. So yeah, and then your question is, if crypto enters a bear market, how would you view XMR? Or sorry, Monero. I don't know, probably has a pullback, but that pullback should get picked up into a higher low. Like this, like I said, is objectively a significantly better chart than most things we're probably going to see today, to be honest, at least if they're in the crypto space. So fair enough, man. Anyways, what else we got? Right now is back. He's also asking, Crown, since most alts trend down perpetually, if you were to short them so this is the comment I was referring to earlier. But basically the question is, if you were to short these shitcoins to zero or low leverage, or low leverage, these things are not mutually exclusive, sir. What strategy would you use? Okay, so it basically what I just said, that whole rant is exactly applicable to this scenario. It's like, look, you are almost undoubtedly going to be right about Fartcoin being a down only asset, for the perpetuity of history, but unless if you really strategically find one of these higher term time frame lower highs, you can't just short it right here, even though long term you will be correct, or you're very likely to be correct, I should say. There's no guarantees, obviously, but very likely to be correct. But the problem is that every once in a while, these highly liquid shitcoins do something like this, and then they come down. It's a popcorn rally is what I like to say. It pops up and then immediately falls back down. It's just all air. It's just all bullshit. Okay, by the way, this thing's not going to rally this much. Okay, I'm just drawing lines and what feels good. It's not about what's right or wrong. It's about what feels good. Probably something more like this if it has a pop up at all. But ultimately, it's like, yeah, you'll be right. But hey, you might have to eat a fucking 30% move, or sorry, this would be a 50% move. Doesn't even look like anything on the fucking chart, but that's a 55.25% move. That's insane. You're not going to survive that on even 2x leverage. So my point would be is that if you are going to short shitcoins during a bear market, you can't just say, it's a downtrend, I'm going to short. It's like, no. You need to find the next lower high. And generally, that's going to come on some sort of a higher term time frame hidden bearish divergence. So Caretaker's RSI is really, 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 really great for this purpose, especially when you have hidden bearish divergence on, let's say, like a 5-day or a weekly. That's very likely going to be a lower high on a swing high into a trending move. That's probably going to be one of the more safe parts to potentially short, or just regular bearish divergence if you do get it. But anyways. Some good old H2O. Do I have any coffee left? Oh my God. I do. I have a lot left, in fact. All right. We got Great White Hype next. He's I always feel like that's moderately racist whenever I say it. I feel like I need to hold back a little bit there. Anyways, Great White Hype says, GM Crown, what's up, ma'am? A-Lab on the daily weekly. This sounds like a stonk. ALAB. See what this is. Astera Labs on NAS. This one does want to come back down as well. I think it is going to come back down to the lows that you saw in November, somewhere around like 130 to 132, something like this. Wouldn't necessarily say that's bearish. I do think that this ultimately will be a higher low long term at around 130, let's say, give or take a few bucks from that number. But yeah, in the short term, it very likely does come down a little bit. So I would be expectant of that move. You got and again, hidden bearish divergence on the last couple local highs here. Caretaker's RSI just paying for itself in this. At that time. Didn't even go over the daily price actions today, but I do want, let's actually just quickly go over it. I mean, there's been so many fucking opportunities on this thing recently. It's kind of fun because if I do trade this, I do it manually. And it just reminds me of the old days, the dopamine, the rush, the fun. But in this case, I mean, we've seen this play out so many times, and I imagine there was already a bounce off of 98.70. Let's see, 90, yeah, little bit of an attempt intra-bar there, but not much. You know, again, when you're trading against the general trend, can't get too greedy with these plays. Got to be in and out very, very quick. In this case, to the downside. Yeah, I can probably ride that for a little bit. Anyways, let's see. We got Stefan. Hey, Stefan Milosevic. It's been a long time, man. Hope all is well. You're looking at CVNA. Okay, CVNA. Okay, yeah. Like CVNA. Wait, CVNA? Anyways. All right. Going to the weekly here. Very good, man. A new, fresh breakout to all-time highs above 415 or 416, assuming it just closed above there today, which I think is very likely to. You know, you only got 4 hours and 6 minutes left to go. Then this thing is ready to trend to new all-time highs. You got hidden bullish evidence on the monthly time frame on that last local and higher low. This thing is ready to just make new all-time highs, man, and do the fun part, I guess. It's ready to do the fun part. Here's a quarterly as well. Quarterly also likely finishing this year strongly. So I do think you have new all-time highs to come in 2026. As far as the daily goes, it's probably going to be a pullback at some point in between there, you know, probably pops back down to 440 at some point. But generally, this thing is up and to the right. It looks very, very nice, in fact. So if you are on a higher term timeframes, I'd be expecting new highs, man. We got Darkra 93. He's looking at AU, Anglo Gold, Ashanti. Okay, sounds very exotic. Nice. It's on nicey. Can't be that exotic. You are on a daily and weekly as well. I like to start high then. Okay, no. Oh, no, we do have some bearish evidence on the weekly time frame, so maybe a pullback and consolidation lower here, but it's not bearish. The monthly time frame is still pretty damn good. As is the quarterly, I'm guessing. Let's just double check here. Yeah, again, closing on new all-time highs. Not going to be a bearish thing. Overall, if it does have a short-term pullback, which I think it's very possible to pull back down, maybe even somewhere around this gap if things get very bad, but let's just say low 70s, I'd be looking at that as an opportunity. I think that this thing, like the last chart we looked at, is poised for new highs at some point in 2026. Even if this month in December, you know, it's probably... I wouldn't expect to do that much this summer. I think it's kind of sideways and a little bit of downside correction here in December. But in 2026, I'd be looking for this thing to make new all-time highs. This is good. It's very, very good. You know, breaking out and closing a higher term time frame on new all-time highs. I'm always going to be betting in that same direction, man. This is nice. It's very, very nice. Very nice indeed, sir. You have a nice chart there. The Mossinator says, "Hello, sir. What's up, man? Spotify weekly, monthly, please." Sure. I think their symbol is just spot. Yeah, there we go. Looks like a bounce at least. Too hard to say if the bottom is in. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that the bottom is absolutely in right now, but I do think that you have a local swing low and you should rally off this low, maybe somewhere around like 640 to 650 at least, something like that. But I wouldn't be willing to call this like the low just yet. It's too early to say. I think, you know, a low like this is going to take a little bit of time, but I mean, it's not a ton of history here, but it is decent for what we have. It's decent for what we have. So, you know, looking for a higher low at that yellow 21 EMA on the monthly time frame is technically correct. So this area does make sense. What I'm trying to say, it does make sense for a low. It's just I don't see proof of it just yet because you are still in a daily downtrend. You won't officially flip this one around until you're at least back above about 650-ish. But until then, you know, I think it's potential. I think you will rally. The real question is, can it break and hold above 650? And if it can, that to me would be indication that, yeah, your macro low is in. Be expecting some sideways and up. You know, long term, quarterly, it's an uptrend, but it's like, is this a swing high and it comes down and makes a swing low around like 430? That could be quite painful. You know, it's almost about 40% pullback. It's pretty bad. Anyways, yes, cool is overrated. We all pee our pants a little bit. And if you don't know what I'm referring to, you probably don't know Mr. Adam Sandler. Anyways, Great White Hype is back. He's saying short-term put on Riven, 200 simple rejection. Let's see, RIVN. So you are looking to buy some puts on like a short-term expiration. I mean, look, you are at the 200 simple on the weekly. Is this a rejection as of right now? I would not consider that a rejection as of right now. It's too early to judge it. If you do want to take a position there, I understand technically why you do that, but I disagree with it. I do think that this thing actually wants to carry onwards and forwards from here. The monthly time frame and the weekly time frame are looking pretty strong right now for actually breaking through and moving their way into the low 20s. So I think if you take a position there, you probably will be wrong. And even on the daily, I mean, this is just another higher low right here. This is not a rejection mount. This is way too early. I mean, it's just tested it right now and have an initial reaction. If we see like another few days where it turns back down and then takes out this low from Thursday, okay, yeah, then yes, you have a real rejection, and, you know, buy or puts if you really desire. I don't think buying puts on this thing is a way to make money, to be honest with you, because volatility is going to start to contract on any sort of a downside move. But you know, if you wanted to sell calls on the other side, like a little bit out of the money, that would make sense to me. I'd feel a lot better about selling, you know, the $23 or $24 strike calls, because that'd be a lot easier to cover if, you know, if you're wrong. And I just think puts are going to be buying, you know, useless premium in this case, to be honest with you, man. A lot of option buying is just useless in my opinion, unless if you're doing that with another, you know, with some sort of other side on another strategy. You know, just buying straight up premium is more or less buying a lottery ticket in my eyes. Anyways, you know, again, this is coming from someone who actually was a market maker in equity options, you know, in a lifetime ago. It feels like it was so long ago now. But that's kind of the way that I look at buying options premium if you're not doing an actual strategy with it. Like, you can buy option premium if you're going to sell option premium somewhere else. That can make sense for sure. You can do strategies like that, or if you want to do it with the underlying stock, you know, you can make things work like that. But just buying straight up premium, whether it be a call or a put, in my opinion, that is just straight up lottery style thinking, and you're going to get lottery style results, which is mostly almost always losses. You'll have maybe one win every once in a while, but you probably bleed your fucking account dry before that happens, because, you know, it just doesn't happen that often. These options are priced in a way that they are going to expire worthless extremely more often than not. So, you know, is your model better than a market maker's model? Probably not. You probably don't even have a model. I'm not saying you, by the way. I'm just saying in general, because, you know, a lot of people try to play options in that way. I'm not saying you at all. I don't know exactly what you're doing, but I know that many people look at it in that way. People are informing you, Crown, you can short 1x. Yes, I understand you can short 1x. That is effectively simulating a cash position. In my opinion, why, like, just sell the fucking underlying stock? That makes zero sense. Like, okay, you can either simulate a cash position or have a cash position. If you simulate a cash position, then you have somewhat of a risk. It's small. It's very, very small, of course. But yeah, it does exist. It's probably not going to happen. But yeah, theoretically, it could cause an issue. But you're just simulating a cash position. So you might as well just sell the underlying and just get out of it to begin with, because you do have more risk in that way. So yes, I completely understand that, but I strongly disagree with sort of the method that you would be employing there. I think that that's just, you know, again, thinking as a trader, thinking as an investor, why would I have extra risk when I can have the same situation effectively and have lower risk? I mean, there is never a situation where I would ever choose higher risk, ever, you know, when given the same outcomes, more or less. Anyways, Ondo Poncho, what's up, man? Hype, get that 24-hour close below 29.20. Can I short it to 20 now? I don't know. Let's see. I mean, you can do whatever the hell you want. Did it close? Okay, so it closed below 29.20. Yeah, so, you know, it is in the process of breaking down here. I do think you might get one more rally to $32 first, but overall, I think you're going to be on the right side of that trade. It's just, can you eat that move if it does happen? But yeah, you know, I think you're generally on the right side of this trade here. I think this thing will come down to like 21-ish, whatever this wick low was from October. I do think that that's going to be a natural area of interest on a downside move. And basically, your position is 100% safe in my eyes, as long as you're below the December highs, which is $36. So if you're cool with that risk, which personally I'd be okay, but I do think you might have maybe one more small rally first, so maybe you get a slightly better position, then yeah, I do think that that's, you know, that is a decent plan, and you have a very easy invalidation, as I just stated, you know, at about $36, whatever the high from December is, which, to be fair, I mean, is like a 20% move from where you're at right now. So that's why I'd say, you know, if you could get $32 or a little bit above $32, that would make it a lot more attractive. But yeah, I think you're generally on the right side of that, man. Again, just looking for something that's obvious here. What about a 5-day? We just got a new 5-day. Yeah, it's like you can easily have a reconnect with that 5 EMA at $31. So, you know, just be aware there might be a small pop back up here, but I do think directionally you are on the right side of that one, man. Anyways, we have Chris Velanex. He's looking at MicroStrategy. Sure, probably not doing terribly, but probably also not doing greatly as well. Yeah, still hanging around the lows. I think that you do retest around these lows, maybe slightly lower towards 140. Same thing as I've been saying before, but I don't think you're going to be closing lower than 140, really. if there is going to be a bigger breakdown, I think that happens somewhere way far in the future. I don't think it's going to do this, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Let me just get out my LARP lines here. I highly doubt it's going to do this, where it just goes, bloop, all the way back down to fucking $50 or whatever. I do think it'll be like this LARP line here, where, it comes back down to those November lows, maybe a little bit lower towards 140 officially, and then bounces. And it should be a pretty big bounce. I'm still thinking somewhere between 225 to 250, high probability. But in the short term, does it retest around those lows? Yeah, I think so. You do have a pretty nasty rejection on the 21 EMA right there, and you do have hidden bearish evidence on the daily RSI. Again, this is just what I look for on a continuation move. So, one more move around those lows, maybe a little bit lower, then bounce, and then come back to it after that, pray for a reversal, I guess. But yeah. Anyways, Asty's next. What's up, Asty? ARK on the daily and monthly. Gotcha. Okay, ARKX. This is Kathy Wood's shitcoin, I believe. Oh, it's her space and defense innovation ETF. Well, that sounds like stuff that I'm generally interested in. And hey, we have a Kathy Woods chart that's actually decent. That's also a surprise. No, kidding. I guess not that surprising, but let's see. You're on a daily and a monthly. Let's go high, finish low. I guess the real question is this a swing high here or not? Or is this just a continuation move? I'm more inclined to say that the low of this quarter at $25 is the low of this quarter, and we will see it continue to the upside from here. But if I'm wrong, you'll know, because it comes back down below $25. And I completely understand that is not a very helpful analysis. But what I'm trying to say is that I'm generally bullish on this, with some ebbs and flows here, as long as you're above, again, the November low of about $25. In the short term, do I think you're going to pull back a little bit? Yeah, I do think so. Maybe it pulls back down to like 27.5, but that's not problematic for the long term. I'd still favor the quarterly, and probably not much for a 6-month or a yearly here. But these are not necessarily bad charts. It just tells me that a pullback is likely an opportunity, and I still see higher lows everywhere I go. So everywhere I go, I see higher lows. I feel like that should be a song. But yeah, again, looking at this man, or looking at this girl, or sounds, when you say man, it sounds normal, but when you say girl, it sounds like very demeaning. I don't know why. I don't know fucking why, but it feels that way. Anyways, my point is that you probably got some ebbs and flows here, probably a little bit of short-term downside, but I'll still be treating this as okay as long as you're above $25. So yeah, if the bull is back, he's looking at tether dominance, no timeframes, just thoughts. Okay. Just no timeframes, just vibes. Looks to me like the patience that we were looking for on this one earlier this week is going to be rewarded. This is still operating in a higher low fashion here. We still have we have another drive of hidden bullish evidence come off of yesterday's low. So this does retain its bullish bias. While it did get pretty close to potentially negating it with a weekly closure below last week's low, it is not doing that just yet. And again, I really want to highlight this right here, because as long as you're above last week's low, or just basically the 200 simple on a weekly closing basis, in my opinion, it has to be considered a consolidation at the high side of the range, which is more likely to break out to the upside, especially by taking out the prior trend high from March of this year. So to me, that is more likely to continue to the upside than the downside. But the invalidation is, again, a closure below about 580 or 585%, whatever the fuck that number is. If that were to happen, I'd get very bearish on this, but we're just not seeing that right now. And as we come close to the end of this week, it's rallying back up. I think that's a good sign that this thing does want to continue with the reversal, in which case we should be expecting this to go further to the upside, which does generally correlate with downside price action on cryptos in general. And this did have, or does have, a bit of a symmetrical pizza right there. And there is an implied target on this, and it actually is pointed up all the way towards 8%. Is it going to get up all the way there? Does it play technically in this fashion? I don't know. I don't know. I haven't really been watching this chart that much to see it play technically, but trends do seem to matter for tether dominance. So at the very least, you are seeing this flip into an uptrend. But yeah, Steven Schickman, holy shit, sir. God damn it. No doggy coin today, huh? I'm glad that you're still alive. We very much missed you the last couple streams. Your presence was certainly, or your lack of presence was certainly noticed. It looks like, okay, my LARP lines over here, not Bitcoin, but Ethereum did get into the very shallow portion of them, about 34.55. I think similar to Bitcoin, this is a trending lower high right here. We're going to see this one swing back down towards 2,900 or maybe even 2,800. But there should be another bounce attempt from that numbers, I would think, somewhere in that pocket there. But just like Bitcoin, you got hidden bearish divergence on this last local high, which is, another lower high. So this is not good long term. Yeah, something like this comes back down around these lows in the short/medium term. Let's say the next couple weeks. Then probably tries another bounce from there, just because I think Bitcoin's going to do that as well. And maybe that bounce brings it up a little bit higher. But yeah, other than that, short term down, medium term probably has another rally. Long term, it's going to do whatever Bitcoin does. So we shall see. We shall see indeed. We shall see indeed. And the day ain't over, as well. I mean, Bitcoin hasn't even taken out yesterday's low yet. Although I'm not going to lie, it doesn't look amazing here, but. If it could reclaim $92,000 before end of day, that's going to start to look better. It's still not a signal in and of itself, but it's going to start to look better. If it could close above 93.8, the highs from this current consolidation, that would be an objective signal. Or if it could actually force the cross between the red 5 EMA and the yellow 21 EMA, which it, again, got very close to yesterday. It was $10 away, but that does matter. It didn't happen. It did not happen, unfortunately. What's up, Ray Ray? Sending love and appreciation for your work. Hey, I appreciate it, man. And the Tard humor. Yes, I have a lot of Tard humor as well. I am indeed an actual retard. I'm a literal retard. I'm telling you, I actually am, because I remembered recently from conversations with my parents that I actually went to a speech pathology class when I was like 6, I think. I had like a really bad stutter. I mean, I still have a little bit of a stutter as well when I try to speak a little bit too fast, and I definitely had dyslexia too. But I remember in first or second grade, somewhere around there, I would go to a special class. They told me it was a very special place for special kids. Okay, that was me. And then they taught me how to speak without stuttering my whole way fucking through it. So it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Anyways, can I pay you for a super chat in doggy? I feel like that's going to turn against me. In some way, that's going to make me end up owing money to you. We could just look at doggy coin if you really want to look at it. I mean, we can do it for Steven Schickman here. Shitman, Mr. Schickman. I've been calling for the bounce off of the 200 simple here, but this is looking more and more like a rejection, which could lead to a real breakdown. I don't know, man. Am I gonna I almost always regret getting bearish at the 200 simple on a weekly time frame like this. But hey, it's tested it many times now. Could it actually break it this time? I guess it's possible. I'm gonna personally go with my past history, because I just have to do that. But I can't blindly call for a breakdown here. Yes, at some point it probably does break down, but I see these things bounce so often. It's just very difficult to actually get it when it actually truly does break down. But if it is going to break down, this is typically what it does look like. It hangs around these lows for a few weeks, rejects the most recent moving average, and then actually breaks. I'm looking for counterpoints to that right now. Weekly R. I mean, yeah. It could so easily have a rally from here. I'm just not going to call the breakdown. Yeah, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I think I'd have to bet on like another bounce. But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I guess it wouldn't be that surprising. But I just got to go with with the lessons that I've learned over time. What's up, Peter Underwood? I see over there. Doggy coin is strong, very strong. Especially if we look at the inverted chart, it looks amazing right here. Absolutely amazing. Totally fucking bullish. Unfortunately, when we actually turn our monitors to the proper direction, it is not. It is not, unfortunately. Unfortunately. Yes, indeed. Anyways, a few more of these. What would be a high probability bounce to get out of Ondo? I feel like you just put in words there to make me bullish on some sort of a shitcoin. There is no high probability bounce for something that just generally goes down, man. There was a great question about this in the Discord earlier today that I saw. Someone was asking like, what is the high probability price I should get out at? I'm like, it's a down only chart. There is no high probability of a bounce. Like all you're doing is hoping and praying on that. Do they happen? Yeah, they absolutely do happen. but trying to guess them or trying to get those and play those perfectly is very difficult. It's very fucking difficult. You're making life way too hard on yourself. In this case, what do I think is a high probability bounce? I think the only high probability thing here is going fucking down, man. The only high probability thing on this chart is that it's going to go down over time. Yes, at some point you are going to get a bounce, just like you got over here, over here, over here. But to get them is very, very difficult. The high probability direction is down. The trend is down. It's a shitcoin, so it's generally going to be down. Whenever you have to guess on the direction, it is going to be down. Whenever you are looking at a shitcoin chart, you should be thinking down, 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 down. If you were to get a bounce here, it would be a gift from God, a fucking gift from God. Get this thing back around 60 cents. You don't want to reconnect with the red 5 EMA. But Skeletor's laughing in your fucking face because this thing is going to go down over a long period of time. You might reconnect with it, you might not. If you do, great. If you don't, or maybe you reconnect with it a few months from now, and then it's all the way down where it's at right now, and then you would have wished you just sold, and then you had that fucking money back in your hands, so you had the option to go get into something that's actually fucking moving your goddamn direction. Maybe even not a shitcoin. Great fucking idea. Great fucking idea. Great fucking idea.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Where'd you find this shitty-ass chart? That's a real question.
Monster kill!
I don't like it. High probability bounce. High probability bounce, you say? Yeah. Here's your high probability bounce. It's going to infinity and beyond. Just kidding, bro. It's bullish. Anyways, Cradency says, Season's greeting, Crown and Elsa. Hello, good sir. Hope the holiday season is treating you well. I hope the holiday season is treating you well as well, sir. Much love to you and your families. Ho, ho, ho. Much love to all. Wait, what the fuck? It was just a nice, positive message. Amazing. I love it. I fucking love it. I fucking love it. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And all the best to you as well, man, in this holiday season. We can also just say Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and what do you say for Kwanzaa? Is Kwanzaa even a thing anymore? Does anyone here celebrate Kwanzaa? Does anyone here celebrate Kwanzaa? I'm genuinely curious. Does anyone know? Could you educate me, please? What do you say? Do you say Happy Kwanzaa? What do you say? I'm waiting at the bottom of the chats right now. How do you congratulate someone from Kwanzaa or for Kwanzaa? What even is Kwanzaa? Does anyone know? I mean, I've just heard the name. You know, I think this was a thing like 30 years ago, only in California. Probably not even Africa knows about Kwanzaa. Anyways, we got Tom next. He says, on Nicey, HNGE, Hinge Health. Okay. Sounds cool. A biotech related sort of technology thing, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, interesting one here. You know, you are kind of wedging yourself at the top side of this consolidation, which generally good, but in order for it to officially break out, we just need to see it close above what would be last Monday's high, the price action pivot right here at $50.77. If you see that, this thing should go on a pretty flying move towards 54.5, $55, something like that. For on the weekly time frame, I'm neither bullish nor bearish on this. We just don't have enough history here. I guess in the short term, I'm bullish as long as you're above last week's low at 45.5. Below last week's low, I think that you do have a pretty sizable downside move to 39 or $40, which is big percentage move here. Until then, I guess I'm biased towards upside, but it's not going off of much. So I wouldn't be, I would really want to see it close above this number right here. At that point, I think you actually do have a continuation move. But until then, it is somewhat questionable here. Not a strong opinion right there. One ondo equals one condo. That's right. You will be living in a condo for the rest of your life. Paycheck to paycheck. Holding the ondo coins. It's amazing. It's amazing. Ray says, how many poop coins must I eat to get the turd breath? My mind is stumped. I think honestly, even just one is good enough to give you the turd breath. Like, I can always tell whenever I meet a shitcoiner in real life, because they always ask me about XRP. No, although that is very true, to be honest. But It's a terrible thing to say, but it is. I mean, it is honestly true. I have noticed this. Yeah, it is. It's the most interesting thing. Everyone who just learned about crypto yesterday is asking about XRP today. I don't know why that is. Why is it XRP? To be fair, I mean, XRP is like not the worst of the shit coins. It's certainly not. Can I pay you with a super chat in Terra Luna? Yeah, it'll just be like 1 trillion Terra Lunas. I guess. I don't know. It's probably worth like less than a cent. Grateful Dabs, nice name. EOSE Energy. Okay, nice. Lots of stocks today. This is very good. Very, very good. EOS Energy. I can tell you what's not good is fucking EOS the gym. Sucks. Fucking sucks, man. Don't go there. Anyways, it is cheap though. Anyways, daily 4 hour. Higher term time frames are the obvious one here, but overall it is good. And I'm going off of the higher term timeframes for that. Like, I actually do think it's going to continue with some more long-term upside price action. In the short term, though, I really need to go to the weekly because I do think it's going to be boring in the short term, and I do think you have a downside move in the short term as well. You just rejected the top side of the range, probably does something like this, and comes down to the low side of the range at like 12 or 12 and a half, something like that. Just again, big percentage move, but I do think that that is going to be a higher low, and I do think that it will try again to the upside from there. So if you're on the 4 hour and the daily, I do think you have a short-term downside move, but when we zoom out to the monthly, I'd really be getting like super bearish on it. I just think, you come back down to the range low, something like that is somewhat likely. Hopefully that was helpful, man. What's up, Sam? How you doing, Mr. Frank Nosey? It's good to see you, man. Gold short-term 4 hour, 1 hour. I mean, overall, I'm bullish on the higher term timeframes, lower term timeframes. Let's see. That is a swing high right there. You just retested more or less your prior high, or in this case, your all-time high. So pulling back here is like very much to be expected, but I'd be looking for a higher low, kind of where it's at, 4260-ish region. You're going to have the potential for hidden bullish divergence. The hourly RSI is significantly below yesterday's low, Thursday's low, and it's even around last Thursday's low when price was trading all the way over here at like 42.13. So I do think you're going to put in something resembling a higher low, kind of where you're at. Something like this there. You've already kind of wicked down to that region. Should try sideways and up from there. Again, coming into the end of this, to the end of this week, I think that this would be a pretty strong closure. Especially closer to, especially if you can get back above 4,300 by end of day, that'd look really good. And again, long term, it's like, I think in terms of time, this rally is probably on its last legs. I think at most another 6 months to maybe 10 months, which is not that much considering that this thing has, been on a tear for the last like couple of years or 2-3 years, just straight up. But this is also the best times to get the most crazy parabolic action because, well, look at the fucking chart, man. I mean, it's that, near the end of of a cycle is when you get those crazy gains. So how high can it go? Who the fuck knows? But I do think you might see a five handle in this thing in the not so distant future. Yeah. Other than that, I mean, just follow the trend, man. Follow the yellow brick trend. Follow the yellow brick trend. I mean, you even have a bit of do you want to call this a W? Do you want to call it a cup and handle? It doesn't really matter what you call it, but I guess the more accurate one would be a cup and handle in this particular instance. So there is an implied target, which probably gets realized in, maybe by end of December. That'd be about 4,500 or just shy of 4,500, something like that. So that, the bias, my point here is that the bias, is going to continue to be upside price action in short term, just, some short term ebbs and flows. So I don't know how relevant that is to you, man. Anyways, let's see. We got Lutfi. She's back. What's up? Could you check out Litecoin short, medium, and long term? What is with you and these damn shit coins? For real. Smell it on your damn breath. Wow. Amazing. Litecoin putting in another lower high precisely at our circle LARP line. It's similar to Doggy Coin, similar to Link Coin. It's resting right on that 200 simple on the weekly time frame. At some point, I do think you will break lower and you will come down to like 60-ish, maybe even 50, like 55 to $60 at some point. Is it going to happen from this current move right here? I don't know. It's always so difficult, like calling those breakdowns just because they bounce so many fucking times. And if this thing does bounce, it's going to pop up to like 93, 94 really quick. So it makes it difficult. Anyways, daily time frame does have hidden bearish evidence. So I guess, this does have a real potential to break down from here. Volatility is low right now. So this is the kind of setup that you would expect that could lead to a real breakdown. But as I went with my rant on Doggy Coin, it's like I really don't like calling those myself until it's like undoubtedly proved. But yeah, I mean, this is a real good shot for this thing to come back down to these lows, somewhere between like 55 to low 60s ish, something like that, which is a big move from where you're at right now, percentage wise. So yeah, long term, I mean, it's just, it's Litecoin. It takes every opportunity it ever gets ever to fail. Litecoin sees an opportunity. It's like, oh, that's a great opportunity to have an upside breakout. Why don't I just fail right here and do the fucking dying swan pattern just to the ground? Sounds like a great idea. That is a great idea. That's exactly how the Litecoin chart looks like to me, especially when you look at it versus Bitcoin. It's just the most pathetic chart I've ever seen. Okay, it's not the most pathetic chart I've ever seen. I've seen some absolutely disastrously pathetic charts. A chart that even a mother would hate. It would hate that chart. Litecoin is among those, but it's not the worst. It's not the worst of them. I'll show you right now. Wow, amazing. Just an amazing chart. Unbelievable. Let's lose some more money by buying some Litecoin. I love losing money. Why don't I just buy some more Litecoin? That's the best way to lose money fast. Lose money fast now. Do you want money?
Do you have money? Do you want even more money?
Do you want less money? Buy some Litecoin. Do you have money? Do you want less money? Buy some Litecoin. Yeah, it's bad, but do I think it's going to break down on this particular move? I always regret saying it is when you're coming off the weekly 200 simple. I almost always regret it. So I'm going to say no in the short term, but in the medium or long term, yeah, it very likely does break back down to those prices. Aiden's 6 says Code K, Eastman Kodak Company. All right, new one for me. Daily and weekly. Weekly, it's one of those long-term down only charts, but this could potentially be in a reversal right now. You do have the 21 versus 55 in an upside direction. You do have a macro higher low in place. You do not have a higher high in place, but this one does have a real chance to actually reverse here. In order to call a long-term reversal, it need to close a quarterly or a monthly above about 980. If it can do that by end of December, really fucking good. I mean, that would be a tremendous reversal. That would be a real macro reversal. Real trap shit. And then,
damn, son, where'd you find this?
That's exactly how it goes. But first, real trap shit. And unfortunately, right now, it's not quite there just yet, but I do think that this one has a real potential to do it. In the short term, however, this is a rejection, and I do think it will come down in the short term back to like 820 at least. Try for a higher low, and if that one fails, I'd be looking at about $7.50 for a higher low. But for right now, it has potential setup long term. You're getting a rejection as should be expected right here. Look for that higher low, and if that higher low does lead to a monthly closure above 980, I think you're in for a big fucking move, like a really big move. Anyways, take another sip of this water. Asti's back. She's asking about AGXPF. AGXPF. Okay, new one for me. Silver Mining Corporation. It's OTC, made 15%, but any good? You're still in lower highs here. You don't even have a higher low. So to me, this is high probability for a popcorn rally. And if you made 15%, I think personally, if I was in your position, I'd take the money and run. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But, I wouldn't even treat it as a potential reversal until you at minimum have a higher low, and you don't even have that. So, rallying up here is kind of where you would expect on a general lower high. Now, maybe you have some sort of an insider information, in which case I'd say, hey, do what you're going to fucking do. But personally, I would look at this one and say it's an OTC bullshit coin. Most of these things fit. Most of these are basically shit coins. Not all of them. Every once in a while you see a major winner, but if you're betting on it, you should be betting on just general failure. You had a big move up here, but no higher low in between, and you're still not on. You obviously have not made higher highs as well. So personally, I'd be looking at this and I'd say no, thank you. I'd say, hey, take that money and fucking run, because this is. Yeah, if it is going to have a real reversal, this is not typically how they look. So I guess that begs question: how would you confirm a real reversal? Well, it need either one, get back above this high from January 2021. So that's a big ask already, because you're kind of getting rejected from lower. And then two, you need to see like a monthly higher low, which right now I mean, it just doesn't. You know, your last low was here and it's just down the whole way. So to me, these usually fail. I usually see these things fail. So yeah, Lulu for Aiden's 61.22. This is what Elsa should buy. Be an investor in Lulu. She's also helping their top line revenue quite well. I can assure you of that, as are pretty much 90% of women's in the American landscape. As far as Lulu goes, honestly, you know, right here, is it investable if you really want it? Actually, I do think so, just because you are coming off the monthly 200 simple. I need to ask about the monthly, but I always like to look at the higher term time frames for these things. Weekly, you know, you have a swing low here. Overall, it is a downtrend, but you should rally up a little bit more in the coming month or two. I would imagine somewhere around like 230 to 240 region, rather likely on the weekly. If we go down to the daily, short term, I think you come back down a little bit first, maybe like 192, 190-ish region, then rally up. But yeah, basically wrapping up my thoughts. Swing low here. It's probably going to take a long time going sideways within this range between about 240 to the upside versus 160 to the downside. Very, very short term pullback. Don't think it's going to make new lows or nothing like that. At worst, you know, retest the lows and then try, you know, a bigger rally from there. But you know, this is a downtrend. You know, you got lower low, lower high, lower low again. So if it rallies up to even like 250, 260, it is a lower high. But hey, if it is going to put in a macro low, the 200 simple on a monthly time frame is usually a good area to be a long-term investor in my experience. Great White Hype says, buy Litecoin and you too can be the exit liquidity. That's exactly right. SPX 6900. I wonder what he's going to ask about. Chart SPX 6900 and Harry Potter Obama Sonic Inu 10, please. How about no? I wonder what this chart's going to look like.
Killing spree.
Bad. Color me surprised. SPX 6900 is a shit chart. I'm surprised, but I thought this was going to flip the traditional market. How could that be? Oh, well, it's obvious. It's SPX 6900. They have a strong community. What does SPX in the stock market have? Stupid. They have like hundreds of trillions of dollars in investments. Worthless. They don't have a community. Fucking idiots. Only SPX 6900 has a real community, okay? Have you seen the mascot? Great chart, bro. I don't know when, but at some point below 25 cents again. Might take a year, but don't you worry. Do you like money? Do you also hate money? Then buy SPX 6900. Do you have money? Do you hate that money? Buy SPX 6900 today. You too can lose all of your money. Amazing. Great idea. Let's just lose everything right now. Grateful Dabs, great name, by the way. Great name, Grateful Dabs. BBAI. This is a stock that I was actually looking to invest in myself. I did decide against it, but it's not, I don't think it's bad. You do have a higher low here. You do have hidden bullish divergence on that low. Overall, I do think that this is very constructive, and I do think that at some point it will resolve in higher prices, but in the short term, it is a short-term consolidation. So I'd be looking at this thing to play between this range high of $7 and the low that you saw from November at about $5.50. And it probably does come back down close to that low and then rally from there. Now, you asked about a daily and a 4 hour. So in the short term, I do think it is a downside move. I'm just not necessarily bearish on it. I just think that this comes back down to that low, puts in a higher low, then rallies back up. Yeah, other than that, no real strong opinions on it. But I do have a strong opinion on this water. Very good water, actually. Very good water. Surprisingly good. It's your old friend. It's your old friend, Broke Dicks. I'm glad to see you, Mr. Broke Dicks. I like the new name, by the way. Hip Hop Anonymous says, Vertex daily weekly, please. Okay. Vertex. Haven't seen this one before. I'm guessing it's, well, okay. I'm guessing it's this one on NASDAQ because you're probably not interested in BSE. So Correct me if I'm wrong, but if it is this chart, that's pretty good. I do think that you have your next higher low in a series of higher lows, hidden bullish divergence and rallying back up, so that's good. Short term, does it pull back from here and then continue with the rally? Probably yes, but generally speaking, I do think that it is good. New Crown Bible subscriber, hell yeah, man. Well, it's not really a subscription. Like you own it for life, by the way. In case you didn't know, you own it for life. Like you don't have like a monthly subscription or nothing like that. You literally do own it for life. But yeah, man, glad to see you in there. But looking at this chart, not certainly not bad over the long term. I just think that you're gonna have a little bit of sideways here in the very, very short term. Probably pulls back a little bit, but ultimately, I think the lows that you saw from Q3 of this year are probably gonna be your lows. But if it pulls back even to, let's say, like $400, that's still a higher low. So overall, this right here is good. I just think that you're going to pull back in the short term a little bit and then put in a higher low and then carry with your rally. But for right now, I think the current rally is a little bit tired over the short term. Then again, I go down to the daily, and the daily has hidden bullish divergence fresh on that last local low above all major moving averages. So either which way, I do think it is good. I'm personally a little bit more biased towards a pullback first and then continuation rather than just continuation from here. But that I might be wrong about very much. We got Sequoia next. He's looking at UEC. No. Why was he from earlier? Yeah. All right, sorry, we missed Vahid Gabel. Sorry about that, man. What are your thoughts on investing in only one asset, putting all eggs in one basket, like Druckenmiller and Peter Lynch, staying away from diversification? Yeah, I've actually studied a lot of Peter Lynch, and I have a significant amount of respect for Druckenmiller. And you will notice that most of the legendary investors have a similar sort of attitude. Maybe not one egg in just one basket, but a very small amount of eggs in a small amount of baskets. And I think personally that is the right way to maximize gains. The problem is that then you have to become a stock picker, and that can be done if you're really on the ball and you're really watching these markets. But if you're just like fucking Joe Blow, general public, and you hear about a tip from Jim Cramer on MSNBC or whatever the hell it's called, or CNBC, sorry, both equally as bad, by the way, as are all of the mainstream news medias, but. Yeah, my point is that I'm trying to get to is that generally, yes, I do think that is the right way to do it if you want to maximize your gains. Now, maximizing gains is not necessarily what you absolutely need to do, because that will require a lot more effort. You need to really study the charts and figure out which ones actually are good, that you have that real conviction in. So personally, I personally allocate more towards the big ETFs. And then when I want to take a few punts on some singular name bets, like a Coinbase, for example, I will take that bet, but it'll usually be a smaller dollar amount. That's just the way that I look at things for long-term investments. But if you are trying to maximize yourself in like a truly professional and legendary investor way, then yeah, that is the better way to do it. You just need to be on the ball a little bit more and kind of watching or at least researching your stocks a little bit more like a hawk in comparison to me, where I think more like a trader in that manner. So yeah, man. But yeah, to answer your question, yes, I do think that is valid, and I do think that that is the best way to do things. But it requires a different skill set, and for many of us, we don't have access to like the same tools that these legendary investors do. The best that we can do is typically just look at charts, so we don't have the same edge there. Like for example, these guys, they are they have access to billions and billions of dollars, probably even trillions in some cases. And they are, putting fucking satellites in the sky to go spy on the companies that they're investing in to make sure that, they're actually, doing what they are purporting themselves to do, for example, something like that. You and I, we don't have that. So the best we can do is generally follow them. And the best way that we find out what those big players are doing is by looking at the charts. That's where they reveal their moves, because they won't tell you until like well after the fact anyways. And they don't have to. I mean, it's not their fucking job to do that, right? Wouldn't make sense. Anyways, yes. Now, where was I? Yes. Yeah, we went over this one. Sequoia, he's looking at UEC. Uranium, probably good. Yeah, I'd say good over here. You're on a weekly and monthly. kind of similar to one of the other ones that we saw. I do think long term it's good. I just think in the short term you might see a pullback into this higher low here at like $11, but I would look at that as an opportunity, honestly. Monthly still good. It's breakout on on new highs. Quarterly has retested the 5 EMA, so I would like to see this thing really close above like $14.5 to $15 by end of year. If you can do that, that would be obviously bullish. But for right now, I still think it's generally good. And you have a very obvious invalidation point to get very bearish on this thing, which is just this quarter's low at $10. I don't think that's going to happen, but as always, need a point for that, and that would be my point. Below there, it's a lost cause for a long time. But as long as you're above there, just go with the trend, man. Anyways, one moment while I take a sip of this water. All right, we got Kenny Bernardi next. Very, very good name because it flows off the tongue. Alcoa, daily, weekly. I got you, man. And then I think we got to shut off this stream very soon because Elsa and I have a date with the gym. A date at the gym with the bar. Good. I mean, I'm looking at the quarterly right here, but you do have hidden bullish divergence on this. Let's go down to your time frames. You're looking at a weekly and a daily. You are at the top side of your range and you're retesting this high from November of 2024. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see a short-term pullback here, but that short-term pullback should result in a higher low because your higher term time frames are bullish objectively. Even your monthly has regular bullish divergence on this last local low here. So, this thing does want to break out to the upside in my opinion. And I do think you will see this thing go, 60 plus, but that might take, 3 to 6 months, right? In the very, very short term as what you're kind of looking at, probably a short-term pullback here, maybe back down to like 42-ish or maybe even as much as 41. But I do think over a long enough period of time, it will resolve to the upside. This is actually pretty decent on the quarterly here. I mean, this really does look like a potential macro reversal in the making. It did have this swing high here off the rejection from your prior all-time high, but it's resulted in another, in a couple more higher lows. So all this price action going back to 09. So for the past, 15, 16 years, that looks like accumulation to me, which is a really good sign. So I'll just leave it right there. In fact, I'm going to write this one down. What the fuck does this thing do? It's a non-energy mineral. It's aluminium. Yeah, those fucking English people, they say aluminum wrong as well. Aluminium. Yes, no, it's aluminum, sir. I'm going to write this one down. This is actually pretty objectively great chart for a potential like real reversal here. Yeah, not bad. All right, cool. Another couple ones, and we are going to shut this baby off. And my phone's blowing up like a fucking suicide bomber. That's terrible. That was not a good one to make. Phone's blowing up like a suicide bomb. Okay, are any of these texts even remotely important? No, it's not. All right. All right. Did you do Ethereum Bitcoin? No, we haven't. I still think I'm probably going to be short-term bullish on this one with long-term bearishness, but no, short-term going to come back down. I think short-term you see another low at the 200 simple at 3260, 3270 Satoshis, but I don't think you're going lower than there in the short term. Like I said, it's really bothered me on this chart that it hasn't, officially tested the green 55 EMA. So I do think you're going to get that move at some point, but that should be the high of whatever rally you're experiencing here. But in the very, very short term, yeah, probably comes back down here a little bit. My LARP line has it going higher from here, but yeah, I think that's going to be wrong. I think it's going to be more like this in the short term, I guess, based off this rejection, come back down there, then put in that rally, then begin your inevitable descent. But yeah, something like that. I don't think you're going to break down to new lows on this current move here. It's just not enough momentum on this current one, but if I'm wrong, I guess. Anyways, did you do the S-Coin of all S-Coins XRP? Actually, we did. No, we didn't. Pisa wasn't here today, but we can go take a quick look at it. I mean, look, objectively, it's a downtrend on pretty much every time frame that matters right now. I do think in the short term, you probably retest this low. I'm just not super confident that you break that low before having a bounce attempt. So that low is like 180. Maybe retest that low, then begin a bounce. I still think 240 to 250 on a bounce would make a lot of sense. And then if it's going to reject, it rejects somewhere around there and it has a real push down. But I just think it's going to be really difficult for this thing to like truly break down from where it's at right now. So I think at worst you get down to like 180, something like that, and then bounce, or maybe even 190. I don't think it's going to be that much more from this current move before a bounce. And then maybe long term, it really does come down, I guess. But yeah. And to be fair, I mean, look, like I'm just having a bit of fun with this, but to be fair to XRP, like comparing it to 99.9% of other shitcoins, it does have an infinitely better chart. So it's like, can I really call it a shitcoin? I totally understand, you know, it's centralized, blah, 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 blah. These sort of things, you know, fundamentally probably has a lot of holes in it. But as far as charts go, charts don't lie, man. Charts don't fucking lie. And it is absolutely better than, you know, 99.9% of other shitcoins that we'll see on a stream like this. Anyways, Crown needs some ground beef, says Richard. Actually, no, I should probably not eat before the gym, but, or I ate earlier. You know what I have for breakfast? I have 2 very fatty patties, and then 2 eggs, and then a sweet potato. And that's what I'm gonna do right now, man. What's up, Ben's chair? Where is he? Yeah, Schickman is here, man. I see Ben's. There he is, Ben's chair. Yeah, we did see Ethereum. We actually looked at Doggy Coin as well for a quick moment. But yeah, man, we do need to shut this one off. We got a little. Well, we have a lot of things to do today. Actually, a lot of things to do. Many things to do every day. I'm waiting for the day where it's just like, today, I'm going to sit at my desk and chill. And soon we shall, of course, have gaming streams again. Gaming streams. I'm very excited about it. Oh man, I'm excited about it. But while I'm setting up this damn house, I do have to prioritize that for obvious reasons. Anyways, we shall end things right there. I want to say a massive thank you for joining us. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with the community on this nice little lovely Friday morning. We'll be back on well, I'll do a Sunday video for traditional markets. I really like that. But of course, live stream on Monday again. And I don't think, I'm not gonna be able to complete a financial video this weekend. It's just too many things going on right now, but I'm hoping for maybe one the weekend after that. But there's plenty of financial nerd shit on the channel right now if you, if you are inclined in that sort of way. So yeah, anyways, as always,